Today I'm making Stracotti, which is an Italian pot roast. I grew up eating this pot roast. It's buttery and tender and cooked for a really long time. I'm pairing it with my Chardonnay rosemary gravy. It's so good. Guys, so today I'm making my childhood favorite. We used to have this very often on Sundays. So I have a 4-pound bottom round roast. Sometimes they're called shoulder roast. It's basically your tough cut of meat, and we're going to cook it for a really long time and keep it hydrated in water, and then I'm going to add a little Worcestershire in there as well, which makes it so delicious, keeps it nice and moist, breaks down those tough connective tissues and makes it super buttery. It's not dry, it's so delicious. But first we're gonna season liberally this big, huge hunk of meat with salt and pepper all the way around. So I prefer using a baking dish because I found by using a roasting pan, something about the stainless steel, it does get hotter and I feel like it absorbs the moisture that I put in it. So a baking dish keeps it nice and moist, making our roast really tender. So now to give our gravy, which will be in the end, lots of flavor, and it's also gonna give our roast lots of flavor. I'm just gonna roughly chop up some celery, place it right around your roast, 3 sprigs of fresh rosemary, and then 1 large onion, just chopped up. This is just a rough cut. This is just to add flavor. All right, so into the bottom of our baking dish. I've heated my oven to 400 degrees, so I like a hotter heat, and the reason is you'll get this beautiful caramelization on top of the roast. And by keeping it well hydrated, which we're gonna do, we're gonna add about 3 to 4 cups of water and a little Worcestershire in there. We'll break down those tough connective tissues and make it buttery, moist, and tender. And technically, Stracotti in Italian means overcooked. Well, it's cooked right. This is the way to cook it. You gotta cook it through. Otherwise, if you just cook it medium rare, it's so tough. This is the kind of meat you just cook it. About 3 cups of water, so you want it to come up halfway up your baking dish, 3 to 4 cups. Yep, that's about it. Worcestershire, about 1/4 cup. This was my aunt's trick. She always added Worcestershire, which really gives a robust flavor to the water, and then it sort of becomes that stock broth, beef broth, that we need to make our gravy at the end. We're gonna cover it with foil, place it into the oven for 3.5 to 4 hours until it's super tender and shreds apart with 2 forks. So it's been about 4 hours, and I removed the roast and let it rest a little bit. And look how much it sort of decreases in size, but that beautiful browning on the top, which gives such a robust flavor. So I'm just gonna transfer this to my serving platter, which we will slice it in a bit, but I need the broth, that beautiful flavorful broth that we have. I'm gonna strain it and then make our rosemary Chardonnay gravy. All right, so I strained our beef broth, and now I'm just gonna squeeze on the vegetables just to get all that flavor out of there. There is great flavor in there. Just squeeze them out, and you'll get about 2 to 2.5 cups of liquid. Now let's start our gravy. So we're gonna melt some butter. Add some flour and make our roux. So growing up when we had pot roast, this is the way my mother made it. It was always so tender and we loved it. And any leftovers, it's so great the next day on a delicious Italian fresh Kaiser roll with horseradish. So amazingly delicious. So you just want to add your flour, a little bit of thyme, and then whisk so we don't have any lumps. So your texture of your roux should almost look like wet sand. It shouldn't be pasty, but really resemble wet sand right along the shoreline. So think of that, right? We're gonna cook it out for about a minute on a medium-low heat. So we wanna cook out that raw flour flavor. We're gonna deglaze with a few tablespoons of Chardonnay, and then it's gonna seize up. So all that flour is gonna absorb the wine. Happens quick, 20 seconds, boom, done. And then add our beef broth. Little at a time, then we'll whisk it. Then we're gonna bring it to a boil. That way the flour comes to its full thickening power. Taste it for seasoning, and then reduce it to a simmer and let that flour flavor cook out for about 10 to 18 minutes. Looks good already, pretty easy. All right, now to carve our roast. But really, we're just shredding it. So we're gonna cut it into slices. But you'll see how it just is so tender. And I love that we get this beautiful caramelization. That's from the 400-degree oven and cooking it for a really long time. Come on, look at that. It's tender, it's just easily shredding. Look at that, come on. So while our gravy is cooking, I'm gonna just cut up our roast, put it onto a platter. This is perfect for a Sunday night. Now we gotta give it a taste. Did you see how tender this is? Come on, look at that. Now for our rosemary Chardonnay gravy. This is the ultimate Italian Sunday dinner. And Coco is dying for a bite. It's so tender, so succulent. And that gravy is so robust. I hope you'll make this dish for your family. For the recipe, head over to the newspaper's website. And thanks for joining me today. From my kitchen to yours, happy cooking. I'll see you next time.